Good evening to everybody, and thanks for clicking on to the Wednesday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. We are rattling through this working week. We're also rattling through November. The winter forecast 25-26 is coming up this weekend at 4 p.m. on Sunday. There is a link in the description below for that live stream this weekend. But we do obviously have a lot of things going on at the minute. I just want to kind of make one mention about people are getting a little bit excited, bent out of shape with regards to this, potential, at least warm first half, mild-ish first half of the month of December. There's a little bit of back and forth, but obviously we've got a generally Atlantic-driven pattern at the minute here. We've got this strat warming that's taking place up in the stratosphere, but there isn't that coupling between stratosphere, troposphere, and it's actually increasing the strength of the jet as opposed to weakening it. But there is a lot of complexity. We are likely to start to see a waning in this increase in angular momentum. The Magellan oscillation is expected to go into phases 7 and 8 as we progress into the month of December. That being said, what is taking place up in the stratosphere is actually suppressing the influence of what is going on within the tropical Pacific. So the two are actually working against one another, hence the constructive interference that's going on at the minute. But let's just hang fire with these off-the-cuff remarks regarding a warm winter. I wouldn't necessarily buy into that idea. I did make mention in yesterday's video about this kind of look of 2013, which obviously was quite a stormy month. It turned out to be an exceptionally stormy winter overall. But we've got La Nina, we've got an East QBO, we're coming off the back of the strongest negative IOD since 1996. So yeah, we're still in the month of November, folks. We're not even into winter yet. Excuse me, I'm seeing people kind of jumping with regards to an assumption that the whole winter is going to be one thing or another thing, based on what we're actually seeing at the minute here. I think it would be a very foolish thing to do that. But this is the temperature anomalies globally through the 26th of November, and with the exceptions of the northeast corner of the United States, it's a warm North America. We have a fairly warm Eurasia, with the exceptions of India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, much of Western China as well is below average here. Got you could argue a cooler African continent as a whole. The same goes for Australia. Also, looking at Europe, we have really taken a bite out of that warm anomaly that was firm across the UK during the first 20 or so days, really, of November. We're actually seeing a little slightly below average across the northwest of Scotland here. It will wind up probably slightly warmer than average as a whole, but over the next 7 days, this is how the temperature anomalies are looking off the GFS extended. Just bear with a second here. And you can see here that it's actually showing below average temperatures, which is interesting. A good chunk of Central and Western Europe here, with the exceptions of Scandinavia, is cold than average. We've got cold than average Iceland as well. So this is what's going on up in the stratosphere then. So we have, so this is a 10 millibars. So we've got this strong warming showing up at the moment across the top of the pole, and then this secondary pulse of warming that is likely to take the mean zonal wind to 0, and then a gradual recovery showing up here. So while we've got this first pulse crossing the top of the pole at the minute, we're warming things up. If you look at the temperatures at 10 millibars here, you can see that rise in the temperature. The average is the grey line. So we went below average, then firmly warmer than average. If we look down at the 30 millibar level, which is lower within the stratosphere, you can see an even stronger warming showing up. So those two secondary waves of warming from Eurasia across the top of the pole is quite evident in the mean zonal wind reflection. So we've got this little, very slight uptick as one wave pushes across the pole. The secondary wave then pushes the winds down to zero, and then we see a recovery taking place. But what's interesting and what's kind of something to pay close attention to is we get another renewed weakening of the polar vortex showing on the ECMWF with the, not necessarily a general consensus, but we do have members taking this well below the zero line. So we've got maybe another bite at the cherry regarding a major stratospheric warming and an actual wind reversal sometime in the run up to Christmas here, around about the 23rd of December. It looks like we may see something going on. But like I said, the Mandela oscillation, phase 6 at the minute, expected to rotate into phases 7, potentially 8 as well. But what's going on within the stratosphere is essentially stopping this influence from affecting the mid to high latitude pattern here. A phase 7, especially with this amplitude here, typically supports high latitude blocking, but this reflective nature of warming within the stratosphere is actually forcing the strengthening of the polar vortex, to kind of more towards the wrong side of the pole. But what we are going to see is we're going to start to see the cold air getting dropped into the United States. If we look at the temperatures, this is globally over the next 5 days or so here. Yeah, I think. So this is the temperature anomalies. So this is the 6Z run this morning. And you can see here that we've got quite a warm Western Asia. We've got a chilly-ish Central and Southwestern Europe. Very cold up into Central and Eastern Russia, with exceptions to the Far East. You've got warmer than average across China, Korea, Japan. But look at North America in particular. And I know there's a lack of coupling between stratosphere and troposphere, but we do have a piece of the tropospheric polar vortex that is going to drop into the United States and send multiple waves of cold into the North American continent, down through the continent itself. That then increases the thermal gradient off the North American coast, strengthens the jet with the type of upper air setup where you've got a trough extending from Hudson Bay to the northern UK. That then sends more of a low pressure train across the Atlantic and really up towards Iceland, actually. So we may stay in the higher pressure side of the storm track itself. That storm track might be more focused up towards Iceland, for example. But you can see here the upcoming 5 days, much of North America. This is a big turnaround from what we've seen, by the way, for North America so far this month. Looking at the 6 to 10, the cold increases across North America. You notice here much of Eurasia is actually warmer than average. Reasons why: we've got a lot of Atlantic weather moving towards the continent, and therefore the pattern is milder than average. And then looking at the 11 to 15 day, this is where we start the certainty levels start to decrease. But if we look at the another way of looking at this, let's have a look at the 850 anomaly here of the GFS model, and you can see these waves of cold air getting drawn down the continent of North America, and then you're increasing that gradient, you're strengthening the jet, and with a general zonal setup across the Atlantic. Look at the cold air coming down over North America here, and look at the waves, how it's coming down one piece after another. So we definitely have an element of cross-polar flow on the East Asia to North American side of the pole, and this does have a little bit of a 2013 vibe about it. But because of what's going on with the MJO, and because of that potential secondary warming showing up towards the 23rd-ish of December, I'm not buying into the fact that December's warmer than average overall. There's other aspects that need to get taken into consideration. We cannot, folks, ignore the MJO being so amplified and heading into prime phases for high latitude blocking. Once we begin to slow down momentum, that MJO is likely to begin to affect the atmosphere from Pacific towards the pole, and I would kind of expect an element of change during the second half of the month in terms of the pattern. But if we look at this, another view here, this is of again the GFS operational. Let's zoom in slightly. In fact, I just want to show you real quick the upper heights. So this is the upcoming 5 days according to the GFS ensemble. So you've got the big ridge extending from the North Pacific. So we've got North Pacific region extending up through Alaska into the Arctic region here. That then forces the trough into the eastern half of the United States. And then we've got this kind of flat look to the jet here, low pressure to the north extending from Hudson Bay to the northern UK region, extending from the subtropical Atlantic towards Iberia. That then is a general westerly regime. And I showed you the chart from December 2013. If you look at the 6 to 10 day here, you've still got that trough dropping into the eastern side of North America, then extended across the Atlantic towards Western Europe. And then the 11 to 15 day, again, we start to see a little bit of a pullback in that trough. But this is focusing the cold over North America through at least the first half of the month. And there's this interference between stratosphere and what's going on within the tropical Pacific. But yeah, low pressure is going to be dominant. We are going to see breaks in that low. It might not necessarily be overly warmer than average. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily buy into the fact that it's going to be a very warm run up through the first half. But you can see here these systems crossing over the Atlantic and affecting the UK, but generally kind of more to the north, if you notice here. So you've got that kind of, see here, that westerly component across the Atlantic towards Europe here. And we could have a few pretty deep lows even in the relative near term with this type of situation here. So I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow with more. Bye.